Hey, what's going on everybody, and welcome back to the Whiskey Cove. And on today's episode, we have another whiskey and more store haul coming your way. Run the video. All right then, folks, welcome back to another new and exciting episode here on the Whiskey Cove. We will be diving into some whiskey and more things that I picked up recently in the last 30 to 60 days or so. So on this episode, what we'd like to do is go through some of the bottles that we were able to finish here in the Whiskey Cove, and then just talk a little bit about what we picked up. And we picked up a couple of really special bottles. And there's quite a story attached to that, but more on that a little later. Let's talk about some of the bottles that we were able to finish. So we were able to finish an Eagle Rare. Eagle Rare is a great bottle to have on hand, a nice 10-year soft palate, vanillas, wafers, caramel, green apple. To have on hand. A lot of people, when they come down here in the Whiskey Cove and they're looking for something classic bourbon but not too spicy, this is usually my go-to. Has that really nice oak presence there, and it's just really approachable for a newer drinker. So we killed that off. We had some friends around and they very much enjoyed that. Next up, this was a Men's Journal Nashville Barrel Company pick. This was phenomenal. So Nashville, they sourced a bunch of barrels from MGP. They brought them down to the warehouse in Nashville. They're around the age of 4 years old. So this guy is 9 years old, so they've had it for 5 years, coming in at 57.83% ABV or 115.66 proof. They had this, and I picked up another one which is around 60% ABV, 120 proof. This was my favorite. This was excellent. My first experience with Nashville Barrel Company, and they absolutely knocked it out of the park with that. And you can go over to the Men's Journal Spirit Shop. They might still have some of that left, but don't count on it. Next up, we have Benchmark Single Barrel. So this isn't as good as I wanted it to be. It's good for what you're paying for it. This is around $20. A single barrel product from Buffalo Trace. Not as good as a Blanton's or a Colonel Taylor, but if you can't get those bottles and you want a small little piece of that, you can pick up one of these. 2 bottles left, and Jack Daniel's Distillery Series Twice Barreled Rye. So this is the bottle that they put out before they put out their regular square bottle offering of this. That regular square bottle is a lot harder to get. However, this one, you can find it around Tennessee, relatively easy. It was a great bottle of whiskey. I don't know if I'd pick up another one. I'm happy that I was able to pick that up. And when I'm traveling, I look out for those because they bring out so many different varieties every so often. So it was fun to have. I think I have better eyes at hand. And then the last bottle we finished was Bullet, and this is their bottled in bond. This is 100% their own distillate. I wasn't a big fan, truth be told. It was very herbally on the palate. It didn't have much sweetness. It reminded me more of like a craft distillery rye. However, that bottle's finished and it's out of the Whiskey Cove. I probably wouldn't buy that again. With that being said, let's talk about some of the bottles that we've been able to pick up. And actually, I nearly forgot, we also have this Havana Club 7. This is a Cuban añejo rum, 7 years old. I picked this up a few years ago when I was in Canada visiting. I don't necessarily drink rum. I don't drink much rum. I do like it. I like it in a mojito. I like it in different cocktails too. So I definitely wanted to pick this up because you can get this in the US, but it's the Puerto Rican version. This is actually the Cuban version, age 7 years old. It was fun. Like I said, great in a cocktail too. I think it cost like 30, 40 bucks when I bought it. So now let's delve into the bottles I picked up. And first up, as is tradition, I bit the bullet. This is the new Midwinter Night's Dram, release of back end of 2025. This is Act 13. Scene 7. So that should tell you how many of these they're putting out at this point. In the beginning, they had a couple of different scenes, so that tells me a couple of different small batches. Now they're up to at least 7. I don't know how many scenes they had this year, but 7 is pretty crazy. So this is edition 13. They release one a year, so it's been going on for 13 years now. The proof is always the same, 49.3% ABV, or do the math on that proof. And I don't know what it tastes like because I haven't got into it yet. Definitely a review coming up. And what we always like to do with the Midwinter Night's Dram is we like to blind it with 3 of the previous versions. So we'll have 12, 11, 10. We miss out on 9. So 9 has been the best, my favorite for a long, long time. And now that's out of the equation. It'll be interesting to see how this stacks up. Because probably last year, I think came in second place, and 10, 11 were just so. So how much did I pay for that? Well, I wasn't gonna pick it up. this year or this year's edition of this release, and I said that. But I picked it up for $90. It was a sale that was going on, and I was like, heck, this is like 2020 prices, and I'm okay with that. When it gets to like $150, that's pure insanity, which is why I didn't pick it up in November time. So I picked it up right after Christmas. Happy that I was able to find it for that price, and hopefully that's what is going to be consistently coming up in terms of these releases. We'll see them more on sale for a better price. Next up, and of course, anytime you see a John J. Bowman single barrel for a reasonable price, you pick it up. I like to pay around $50 for these. However, in the last year or so, they've become a little bit more scarce. So I did pay $60 for this. This is a single barrel product, so they will vary between different batches. But in terms of all of the single barrels that I've tried from John J. Bowman's, I probably have tried about 7 or 8 different ones. Consistently very good. Yes, you will get some which are a little better than others, but that baseline is very much up there. A fantastic taste and bottle of whiskey. If you like Buffalo Trace style stuff, you will like this. Has a very similar palate. This is Buffalo Trace distillate. However, they bring it back to Virginia where this distillery is located, redistill it, and then age it there. So it has all the fingerprints of a Buffalo Trace whiskey, just a little different. Next up, and we have another bottle. We included one of these bottles in the last video, and this is from Whiskey Cove. This is the cigar cask finish. So they sent us a bottle of their barrel strength version. We tasted it, we liked it a lot. We were saying, I wonder if they do a cigar version. And lo and behold, they did. They contacted us and said, we want to send you a bottle. And that's exactly what they did. I'm very, very happy that I'm able to get this bottle. Very humbled as well. You can buy any of their stuff. And again, this is Whiskey Cove, but they have a couple of different selections over on Sealbark. So when you go over to sealbark.com, I'll put the link in the description, search for Whiskey Cove and you'll see their lineup. You can buy it there. You know me on this channel, if you've been watching a while, I really like the cigar blends and finished whiskeys. However, sometimes the different whiskeys are finished a little differently. Sometimes you'll have cigar blends which are finished on Oloroso, brandy, and a variety. However, this one, and it seems to be more of a trend lately, is a blend of straight whiskeys, handcrafted in small batches and finished in Brazilian Amburana. What I really like about this is the ABV improved because it gets up there. 59.22% ABV, 118.44 proof. So with cigar whiskies, they generally sit a little higher, so it's refreshing to see this at that level. I'm going to get into it over the weekend, and then I'll probably post on social media my thoughts. But, you know, for me, anything usually that's finished in Amburana barrels, I'm an absolute sucker for. Next up, when we picked up a bottle of Bombergers, and this isn't any old bottle of Bombergers. I was traveling up in northern Colorado. I'm doing my little hunts when time and family allows. And I found a 2023 release. And again, if you know the channel, you know that is my favorite Bombergers. Very excited that I was able to get this. I was also very excited that I only paid $100 for it. MSRP on this edition when it was released in 2023 was $90. Now it's like 140 bucks for the newer releases. So I'm just very pleased I was able to pick this bad boy up. This is coming in at 54% ABV or 108 proof. Like I said, the best taste in Bombergers. I'm killing off a bottle just above my head here. It's toasted marshmallow, very sweet on the palate, has a really nice touch of wood. Just a pleasant whiskey to drink neat. Happy that I was able to get that. And I have another backup now for that bottle. And now before we delve in to a very, very funny story about 2 very rare bottles I was able to pick up. It is that time of the year where whiskey barrel finished stouts are a big thing. And I like to buy these and I like to share them with you. So as tradition would have it, I picked up the Bourbon Brand County Stout for this year. This is the 2025. I have every bottle going back to 2015 because every 10 years that I've had the bottle, I'll drink it on New Year's Eve. But every now and again, when we get to like 2016, 2017 batches, I have multiple. So I'm really excited about that. And now I have multiple of this year's batch because they switched the batch up a little bit. They created shorter bottles, but they offered it in a 4-pack and charged more. So they probably felt like it wasn't selling as much. So they thought, how can we sell more of a product? So you can't buy the big singles from this year. You have to buy the 4-pack, which I was okay with. Like I said, I always pick these up. This is a stout finished in whiskey, undisclosed whiskey barrels. But usually it's very tasty. And also managed to pick up some really interesting stouts from a brewery here in Colorado, Avery Brewing. You might be familiar with it. And they must have like a bunker at the brewery, because every now and again when I go there and enjoy some of the fine beers, they put out some of these older bottles and they just appear from nowhere. So some of these bottles are from 2012, 2013, 2014, and 2015. So I had to pick them up so I can bunker some of them, but I thought it was nuts that they still had these in the back and they were rotating them in. Not only that, they were for a phenomenal price. They were like $10 each. Happy I was able to get these. Very excited to get into them. Again, that's like a stout finished in whiskey barrels. A lot of these breweries don't tell you which whiskey barrels that they finish in. We do have one bottle that is finishing a very unique blend of whiskey barrels, but it just says whiskey barrels, which is a shame. I'd like to know. I know there's a lot of non-disclosures attached to that. I'm gonna have to go through these a little faster. This is Shadow of a Doubt Imperial Porter by Russian River. I had a lot of the IPAs from Russian River. However, I haven't had a whiskey finished stout from them, because this isn't a whiskey finished stout. It is a whiskey finished porter. So we'll see. Porters are normally a little thinner, lower proof. So I'm excited to see how that drinks, because Russian River are very good at a lot of the beer that they put out. So I'm excited for that. 2 of these beers left, and we'll go through them again quite fast. Next up is going to be this one. This is the Goose Island Reserve Brand Stout. What happened is that I put it on a countertop, which I thought was out of the way, and one of my kids got to it. It's a bottle cap. They definitely weren't able to get into it, but they did beat up the box. Not that that's a big deal. So this is the Bourbon Reserve Brand County Stout for 2025. They do one every year for the last few years. This is a stout aged 2 years in Parker's Heritage 10-year-old rye barrels. This was around $35, reasonably priced considering. I don't like to spend much money on beer because, you know, you open it and it's kind of done, right? But when you get these special bottles and they're finished in whiskey barrels, they taste really good too. And then the last stout is going to be this release from WeldWorks. WeldWorks is a brewery up in northern Colorado in a city called Greeley. When I was in school, I used to live really close to them, so I have a soft spot in my heart. This is their yearly release of what they call the Medianoche. This is like a couple of times a year they release that, and they finish it in some really interesting whiskey barrels, and they let us know what they finish it in. So what this is an Imperial Stout, the 2025 edition, finished in, stay with me, 2025 Medianoche unifies the deep sweetness of bourbon with the spiced intensity of rye in one unanimous blend. This year's release features the highest share of rye balls in a non-rye Medianoche to date. 34% of the blend, to be exact, contains a rye barrel finishing. The 66% is all bourbon finished. So the barrel lineup is nothing short of exceptional, including Elijah Craig, Henry McKenna, Old Fitzgerald, Weller 12, Buffalo Trace, Willett Family Reserve, 10-year Templeton, Stag Jr. So what is that? We have 8 different barrels altogether that give an abundance of flavor. I like to see breweries finish in one specific barrel so I can pick up that specific whiskey's notes. So it'll be interesting to see how that blend comes together of rye, of Heaven Hill, of Buffalo Trace's products, and we'll see what that is like. And again, follow me on social media and you might see some of that. And with that being said, 2 special bottles. So before we get these on, I'm going to tell you the story that went down. So I like to play a little bit of golf in my pastime. So a recent golf course me and a friend went to, they had these on the top of the bar. And you know when you go into a bar, you see some special bottles up top. You ask, sometimes you don't even bother asking, right? You know the prices are going to be $50, $60, $80, $90, $100 a pour. However, it was Christmas Eve or the day after Christmas Day, I can't remember which it was, and I thought, I'm just gonna ask. Because if it's reasonable within reason, you know, I have a friend and I want him to experience these too. So I asked, and this is what he said. He said, funny you should ask that. Everything on that top shelf there, and these are only really the 2 good ones, there was Old Forester in 1924 there as well. Everything on that top shelf is $7 a pour, which is pretty fantastic given what these bottles are. And the way that this guy who is pouring these whiskeys is that our first 2 pours of these, we had 1 each of these different 2 bottles, was about 2 ounces, 2 to 3 ounces, so heavy pours. And then I went back and he said, and we ordered 2 more, and he said, I don't have any whiskey glasses. So he got these wine glasses, but he must have thought he was pouring red wine because it was like 6 ounces in this stuff. So then I went back and I asked him, I said, look, I don't normally do this. As someone who really likes whiskey, if there's good whiskey on the shelf, I don't like to ask to buy the bottle because I want that to be shared around. But I thought this was in a golf club. The guy said that they'd been there for a long time. I don't know how long that is because these are from 2025. But he says that no one really drinks them, and we already drank a lot of the bottle at this point. So I paid $30 each for these 2 bottles, and they're not full, but let's get them on. And that is going to be President's Choice Bourbon and then President's Choice Rye. Both, I believe, the 2025 releases. But as you can tell, a good amount in there. I would say this is half left, and I would say this is maybe a smidge under half. When we got into them, so we only had 2 pours each at this point, okay? They were like up there. So that should tell you how heavy of a pours this guy was pouring. So as a bourbon consumer, I had to do the right thing. I had to save these bottles of whiskey from this insane person working behind the bar was pouring wine glasses full of this excellent whiskey. And again, I don't like to do that, but I was comfortable doing it. So $30 a pop. Very happy that I was able to get these. I'm very humble. I've never had an opportunity to get these. So we brought them down here in the Whiskey Cove and had a little bit of a pour every now and again from these 2. President's Choice, a phenomenal whiskey. The rye is excellent. The bourbon I've tried before. A friend gave me a sample when he cracked the bottle when I was there. And I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was much better than the birthday bourbon. However, maybe because this has been open a little longer, this is fantastic. So we'll probably do a review in these 2 bottles on the channel coming up shortly. But again, right place, right time. And you know, that's got a lot to do with whiskey hunting. So thank you for watching today's video. 2 excellent bottles of whiskey, killed off a lot of bottles, had some really good whiskey stouts. If you want to know a little bit more about them, comment down below because I really like drinking whiskey barrel finished stouts as well. With that being said, if you want to get one of those whiskey war bottles, go over to sealbox.com, search whiskey war, and you'll see the full selection. As we say on this channel, as we drink through the world's whiskeys, 1 glass at a time. Cheers.